A cry for help went out. Humanity responded. Part 1: The Signal. The message came at 3 in the morning, Earth Standard Time. Lieutenant was alone in the communications room when the signal cut through the normal noise of space. She sat up straight in her chair. The voice was weak, broken, and full of fear. "Please," the voice said in Galactic Common. "Anyone who can hear this. We are dying. They have surrounded our world. No food can reach us. No medicine. Our children are starving. Please, someone help us." Recorded every word. Her hands were shaking when she finished. She had heard distress calls before. This was different. This sounded like the end of a world. She ran to wake Captain Park 1. Park was a man of 50 years. He had served in space for most of his adult life. He had seen many things, both wonderful and terrible, but when he listened to the recording, his face became very still. He played it again, then a third time. "The system," he said quietly. "I know of them, scholars, poets. They have never fought a war in their entire history. The Dominion is blockading their planet," said. "They are using starvation as a weapon." Park closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them, there was something hard in his expression. "Wake the senior staff. Meeting in 10 minutes. The Horizon's Light was not a warship. It was a humanitarian vessel built for mercy instead of war. It carried food, medicine, doctors, and engineers. It was designed to help, not to fight. The crew knew this. They had signed up for rescue missions, disaster relief, and medical emergencies. They had not signed up for war. But when they gathered in the meeting room and heard the recording, something changed in each of them. Dr. Sung-ho was the first to speak. He was the chief medical officer, a man who had spent 30 years healing people. His hair was gray now, and his hands were not as steady as they once were, but his voice was firm. "How many people live on Prime?" he asked. "About 2 billion, answered. Nodded slowly. 2 billion people, starving, while the galaxy watches and does nothing. "The Galactic Assembly is debating the situation," Park said. "They have been debating for 6 days now." "And what have they decided?" "To send observers, to monitor the situation, to express concern." Made a sound of disgust. "Observers while children die." The room fell silent. Everyone understood what the captain was thinking. Everyone knew what he wanted to do. The question was whether they would follow him. Park stood at the head of the table and looked at each crew member in turn. "I received a message from Earth's government 2 hours ago. They cannot officially order us to intervene. The political situation is complicated. They are powerful. Starting a war would cost millions of lives." He paused. "But they are asking for volunteers. 1 ship, unofficially, no backup, no guarantee of safety. Just 1 ship full of people willing to do what the rest of the galaxy will not." "What exactly would we do?" asked one of the junior officers. "We have no weapons. We cannot fight a fleet." "We cannot fight," Park agreed. "But we can witness. We can broadcast. We can show the galaxy what is happening. And we can bring help to those who need it, even if it costs us everything." Doctor raised his hand. "I volunteer." One by one, around the table, hands went up, raised hers without hesitation. Within a minute, every person in the room had volunteered. Park felt something warm in his chest. Pride, perhaps, or maybe something closer to love. These were his people. They were choosing to risk their lives for strangers they had never met. "Prepare the ship," he said. "We leave in 1 hour." The Horizon's Light was a good ship, fast and reliable. It could cross the galaxy in a matter of days using hyperspace lanes. The system was far, but not impossibly far. If they pushed the engines hard, they could arrive in 3 days. 3 days. Park wondered how many would die in that time. As the ship prepared to jump, picked up another transmission from the system. This one was different. It was not an official distress call. It was something more personal. A child's voice. Young, maybe 7 or 8 years old. speaking in broken galactic common as if the child had just learned the words. "Is anyone coming?" the child asked. "Please, we are so hungry. My mother has not eaten in 4 days. She gives everything to me, but I am still so hungry. Is anyone coming?" Played the message for the captain. Park listened in silence. When it was over, he turned to face the front of the ship. "Maximum speed," he ordered. "Push the engines as hard as they can go." "Sir, that will burn through our fuel reserves faster than." "I know," Park said. "Do it anyway." The Horizon's light jumped into hyperspace, leaving the safety of known space behind. Ahead of them lay an empire of conquerors, a dying world, and 2 billion people who had been abandoned by the galaxy. Behind them, the Galactic Assembly continued to debate. Representatives from 100 species argued about jurisdiction, about precedent, about the risks of intervention. They talked about politics and treaties and the balance of power. None of them listened to the child's voice. But humans had listened. One small ship, carrying 53 crew members, had heard the cry and decided that someone had to answer. Doctors sat in the medical bay checking supplies. They had enough medicine for maybe 1,000 people, maybe 2,000 if they stretched it. Not enough, not nearly enough, but it was something. It was a start. Recorded a message to send to Earth. She told her family that she loved them. She did not know if she would see them again, but she wanted them to understand why she was doing this. "Some things matter more than safety," she wrote. "Some things matter more than being careful. When someone cries for help, you answer. That is what it means to be human." The ship flew through the darkness between stars, carrying hope toward a world that had almost forgotten what hope felt like. And somewhere on Prime, a child looked up at the sky and wondered if anyone had heard her voice. Someone had. A cry for help went out. Humanity responded. Part 2: The Blockade. The Horizon's light dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the system. For a moment, everything was quiet. Then the sensors began to scream. Lieutenant counted the ships on her screen. 10, 20, 30. She stopped counting at 50. The fleet hung in space like a wall of metal and death surrounding the planet below. "They are hailing us," she said quietly. Captain Park 1 took a deep breath. "Put it through." The face that appeared on the screen was not human. There were tall beings with gray skin and eyes like black stones. Their faces showed no expression that humans could read. Commander looked at the human ship with what might have been amusement. "A human vessel," said. His voice was smooth and cold. "One human vessel, how interesting. Have you come to watch the die?" "We are a humanitarian ship," Park replied. His voice was calm and steady. "We carry food, medicine, and medical staff. We intend to provide aid to the civilian population of Prime." Made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Aid, they are conquered. They belong to the Dominion now. Their food, their resources, their lives all belong to us. You have no business here, human. People are starving. Children are dying. We have business wherever there is suffering." Suffering leaned forward slightly. "Suffering is the natural result of weakness. They are weak. They chose not to develop weapons. They chose not to build fleets. They chose to spend their time on poetry and philosophy while stronger species prepared for war. Now they pay the price for their foolishness." Park felt anger rising in his chest, but he kept his face still. "They are not soldiers. They are civilians, scholars, artists, families." "They are prey," said simply. "And we are predators. This is how the universe works, human. The strong take, the weak perish. It has always been this way. It will always be this way. Not if we choose differently." Studied the human captain for a long moment. "You are either very brave or very stupid, perhaps both. Let me explain your situation clearly. You have one small ship. I have 50 warships. If you try to reach the planet, I will destroy you. Your bodies will float in space forever. Your families will never know what happened to you. Is that what you want?" Park turned to look at. She nodded once very slightly. She was ready. "Commander," Park said, "before you answer, I want you to know something. Lieutenant has been broadcasting this conversation on every frequency available. Every news network in the galaxy is receiving our signal right now. Every species in the assembly is watching. Every citizen of every world can see and hear what is happening in this system." His expression did not change, but his body became very still. "If you destroy us," Park continued, "you will not be destroying a warship. You will be destroying a clearly marked medical vessel that came in peace to help the innocent. You will be killing doctors and nurses who only wanted to save lives. The entire galaxy will watch you do it, and they will remember." For a long time, no one spoke. The silence stretched out like a wire pulled tight. Then spoke again. His voice was harder now, with an edge of anger beneath the cold surface. "You think you are clever, human. You think your cameras and your broadcasts will protect you, but you are playing a dangerous game." "I am playing the only game I know how to play," Park said. "I am doing what is right." Was quiet for another moment. When he spoke again, his words were careful and precise. "Very well. You may proceed to the orbital station above Prime. You may not descend to the surface. You may not interfere with our operations. Any attempt to do so will be met with force, cameras or no cameras. Is that understood?" "Understood." The screen went dark. Park let out a breath he had not realized he was holding. "We did it," said. There was wonder in her voice. "He let us through." "He let us reach the station," Park corrected. "Not the surface. The people who need help are down there, not up here." Dr. Sung-ho stepped onto the bridge. He had been listening from the doorway. "Then we find another way," he said. "We did not come this far to stop at a station." The horizon's light moved slowly through the fleet. Every ship they passed was armed and dangerous. Every weapon was pointed at them, but none fired. The galaxy was watching, and even they understood that some things could not be done in front of an audience. The orbital station was old and worn. It had been a trading post once, before the blockade began. Now it was empty except for a few who had been trapped there when they arrived. Park met with them in the station's main hall. They were thin and tired, their eyes hollow with hunger and fear. But when they saw the humans, something changed in their faces. Hope, small and fragile but real. One of them stepped forward. He was old, with silver patterns on his skin that marked him as an elder. His name was, and he had been a teacher before the war began. "You came," said. His voice cracked with emotion. "We sent our messages into the darkness and we thought no one was listening, but you came." "We heard you," Park said. "We could not ignore what we heard." "The assembly promised to help us. They said they would send peacekeepers. They said they would negotiate. That was 2 months ago. Nothing came, only words, only promises." "Words and promises cost nothing," Park said. "We are here to offer something more." Looked at the human captain with eyes that had seen too much suffering. "Why?" he asked. "Why do humans care about us? We have nothing to offer you. We cannot pay you. We cannot help you. We are weak and broken and dying. Why risk everything for strangers?" Park thought about the question. He thought about the child's voice on the radio asking if anyone was coming. He thought about his crew who had volunteered without hesitation. He thought about what it meant to be human. "Because you asked for help," he said finally. "That was enough. It will always be enough." His eyes filled with tears. He did not try to hide them. "They say we are weak because we do not fight. They say our philosophy and our art are worthless. They say only strength matters." "They are wrong," Park said. "There are many kinds of strength, and sometimes the strongest thing you can do is ask for help when you need it." Doctor moved to stand beside the captain. He looked down at the planet through the station window, blue and green and brown, beautiful even from orbit. A world full of life. A world full of people who were slowly dying. "We need to get down there," said quietly. "The station is safe, but the people on the surface are not. We need to find a way." Park nodded. He was already thinking, already planning. They had said they could not go to the surface, but they had not thought of everything. "We will find a way," Park promised, "whatever it takes." Below them on Prime, 2 billion people waited. They did not know that help was coming. They did not know that someone had answered their call. But they would learn. Soon, they would learn that they were not alone. And somewhere in that suffering world, a child named sat in a ruined building, sharing the last of her food with her dying mother. She looked up at the sky, at the stars she could barely see through the smoke and dust. "Someone is coming," she whispered. "I know someone is coming." She did not know how right she was. A cry for help went out. Humanity responded. Part 3: The Drop. The plan was simple. It was also dangerous. But Captain Park 1 had learned long ago that the best plans often were both. The Horizon's light carried 12 emergency escape pods. They were designed to save lives, to carry crew members away from a dying ship. They were small, fast, and built to survive rough landings. They had never been used to deliver supplies into a war zone. Until now. Dr. Sung-ho supervised the loading himself. Each pod could carry about 200 kilograms of cargo. 12 pods meant 2,400 kilograms of food, water, and medicine. It was not enough for 2 billion people. It was barely enough for 2,000. But it was something. "We load the most important supplies first," said. "Antibiotics, clean water tablets, high-energy food bars, things that will save the most lives with the smallest weight." Nurse O worked beside him, packing boxes with quick, careful hands. She was young, only 26 years old. This was her first deep space mission. When she had applied to join the Horizon's Light, she had imagined helping accident victims and treating minor illnesses. She had not imagined this. But she had not hesitated when the captain asked for volunteers to go to the surface. "Are you sure about this?" asked her quietly. "The drop will be rough, the landing could be dangerous, and once we are down there, we will be surrounded by soldiers." "Did not stop packing, I am sure. You could stay on the ship. No one would think less of you." "I would think less of me." She looked up at him, her eyes steady and calm. "I became a nurse to help people. The people who need help the most are down there. That is where I belong." Smiled. It was a tired smile, but real. "You remind me of myself when I was young, foolish and brave." "Is that a compliment?" "The highest I know how to give." Lieutenant coordinated with the station's communication systems. She set up a broadcast that would stream everything directly to the galactic networks. Every moment of the drop would be recorded. Every act of mercy would be witnessed. Captain Park stood on the bridge, watching the planet below. The fleet still surrounded them. Commander had not contacted them again, but his ships were watching, waiting. "Are the pods ready?" Park asked. "Ready," confirmed over the communicator. "Is the broadcast live?" "Live and clear," said. "The whole galaxy is watching." Park nodded. This was the moment. Once they launched the pods, there would be no going back. They might ignore them, or they might decide that political consequences were worth ending this embarrassment. Either way, Park was committed. "Launch the pods," he ordered. 12 small vessels shot away from the Horizon's light, falling toward the planet below. They moved fast, faster than any warship could easily track. They were too small to be worth shooting, too insignificant to notice. Or so Park hoped. The pods entered the atmosphere of Prime. Fire surrounded them as they fell through the air. Inside each one, supplies shook and rattled against their restraints. Inside 2 of them, humans held on and prayed. Doctor felt his stomach rise as the pod dropped. He was too old for this, he thought. His body complained about every bump and shake. But then he remembered the child's voice on the radio, and his complaints seemed very small. Nurse pod landed hard, bouncing twice before coming to rest in what had once been a public park. Now it was a dust bowl, the grass long dead, the trees reduced to bare sticks. She opened the hatch and stepped out into a world of ruin. The city around her had been beautiful once. She could see it in the architecture, in the graceful curves of the buildings, in the wide streets designed for walking and conversation. They had built a civilization of beauty and learning. Now that civilization was dying. People emerged from the ruins. They moved slowly, carefully, like animals who had learned to fear everything. They were thin, so thin that could count their ribs through their clothing. Their eyes were huge in their starving faces. Lifted her hands to show she meant no harm. "I am here to help," she said in Galactic Common. "I have food, medicine, please let me help you." For a moment no one moved. Then a child pushed through the crowd. A small girl, maybe 7 years old, with matted fur and eyes that had seen too much suffering. She walked up to and held out an empty bowl. Knelt down. She opened a package of food bars and placed 3 in the bowl. The child stared at them as if she had forgotten what food looked like. "Eat," said gently, "it is for you." The child took one bite, then another. Tears began to stream down her face, leaving tracks in the dust on her cheeks. She was crying and eating at the same time, unable to stop doing either. More people came forward, handed out food as fast as she could. She knew it was not enough. She knew that for every person she fed, 100 more were starving somewhere else. But she kept working, kept giving, kept hopping. Doctor found her an hour later. He had set up a medical station in a nearby building, using what little equipment they had brought. Already there were dozens of patients waiting, the sick, the injured, the dying. "How bad is it?" asked. His face was grim. "Bad. Disease is spreading because people are too weak to fight it. Many will not survive even with treatment. We need more supplies, more doctors, more everything. But we are making a difference." "Yes," put a hand on her shoulder. "We are making a difference. For these people right here, right now, we are everything." Elder arrived in the evening. He had come down from the orbital station on one of the supply pods, refusing to stay safe while his people suffered. He found treating patients in the makeshift hospital. "Doctor said, I must ask you something." "Ask." "Why do humans do this? I have studied your species. You are young, aggressive, emotional. Other races call you unpredictable and dangerous. But I see you here risking your lives for strangers. I do not understand." Stopped what he was doing. He looked at the old scholar with tired eyes. "Do you have children, Elder?" "I had a daughter. She died in the first weeks of the blockade." "I am sorry," was quiet for a moment. "Humans have a saying, it is old, older than our. No one is a stranger when a child is crying. We hear suffering and something inside us responds. We cannot ignore it. We cannot turn away. It is not logical. It is not strategic. It is simply who we are." Was silent for a long time. Then he said, "They believe that compassion is weakness. They believe that only the strong deserve to survive. They are wrong." "How do you know?" Smiled, "Because we are here, and they are afraid of us. 50 warships against one medical vessel and they let us through. That is not the action of the strong. That is the action of those who know, deep down, that what they are doing is wrong." Outside, Nurse sat with the small child she had fed earlier. The girl's name was. She had lost her family in the early days of the blockade. She had been surviving alone, eating scraps and hiding from soldiers. Now she sat beside a human, feeling safe for the first time in months. "Will you stay?" asked in her broken galactic common. Looked down at her. The question was so simple, so impossible. "I will stay as long as I can," she said. "I promise." Leaned against her side. Within minutes the child was asleep. Looked up at the sky. Somewhere up there soldiers were preparing for something. She could feel it. The peace they had found was temporary. The danger was coming. But for now, in this moment, a child was sleeping peacefully for the first time in weeks. That was worth everything. A cry for help went out. Humanity responded. Part 4. The Stand. Commander received his orders at midnight. They came from the Dominion High Command, and they were very clear. The humans had become a problem. Problems needed to be eliminated. Make it look like an accident, his superior said. Crossfire, confusion. These things happen in war zones. The galaxy will be upset for a few days, then they will forget. They always forget. Was not so sure. He had seen the broadcasts. He had watched the humans distribute food to the starving, treat the sick, comfort the dying. He had seen how the galaxy was reacting, not with indifference but with something that looked like shame. But orders were orders. Ground forces began moving toward the central district of the capital, where the human aid station was located. 200 soldiers, armed with weapons designed to destroy armor and shatter bone. Against them stood a handful of humans with no weapons at all. On the horizon's light, Lieutenant detected the troop movements. Her heart went cold when she saw the numbers. "Captain," she said, "they are coming, 200 soldiers. They will reach the aid station in less than an hour." Captain Park One stood very still. He had known this moment would come. He had hoped it would not come so soon. "Can we extract our people?" he asked. "Not in time. They have positioned ships to intercept any rescue attempt." "Then we cannot save them by running." Park turned to face. "Which means we have to save them another way. Keep the cameras running. Broadcast everything. Make sure the galaxy sees what is about to happen." "Yes, Captain." Park opened a channel to the surface. "Doctor, Nurse O, this is the captain. Forces are moving toward your position. They will arrive within the hour. I cannot evacuate you in time." There was a long pause, then his voice came through, calm and steady. "Understood, Captain. What are your orders?" "I have no orders to give, only a choice to offer. You can try to hide, you can try to run, or you can stand where you are and let the galaxy see what to do to people who come in peace." Another pause, then his voice joined the channel. "We stand." "Agreed," said. "We did not come here to hide, we came here to help. We will keep helping until we cannot help anymore." Park felt pride swell in his chest, mixed with fear and sorrow. "I will broadcast your location to every frequency. The entire galaxy will be watching. If they attack you, everyone will see. Perhaps that will be enough to save you. And if it is not, then at least your sacrifice will mean something. The galaxy will not be able to look away. They will have to choose what kind of civilization they want to be." The channel went silent. There was nothing more to say. On the surface, Doctor gathered the human team together. There were only 8 of them: doctors, nurses, technicians. 8 people against an army. It was not a fair fight. It was not meant to be. "You heard the captain said. They are coming. We have no weapons, no armor, no way to fight back. Our only protection is the cameras and the hope that the galaxy is watching." Nurse stepped forward. "What do we do?" "We keep working. We keep treating patients. We keep doing our jobs until we cannot do them anymore. If they want to kill doctors who are saving lives, they will have to do it in front of the entire universe." The refugees had heard the news too. They gathered around the aid station, thousands of them, thin and weak and afraid. They had survived months of starvation. They had watched their friends and family die. They had nothing left except the small hope that these strange humans had brought with them. Elder walked through the crowd until he reached. "Doctor," he said, "we have heard what is coming. We wish to stand with you." Shook his head. "You do not have to do this. These are soldiers. They will kill anyone who stands in their way." "We know," looked at the crowd behind him. "We are tired of dying alone. If we must die, we would rather die standing beside those who came to save us. At least then our deaths will mean something." Felt tears sting his eyes. He blinked them away. "Elder, I do not know what to say." "Say nothing. Stand with us." They formed a line in front of the aid station. Old and young, weak and weaker, they stood together. They had no weapons. They had no armor. They had only their bodies and their dignity and the choice to face death on their feet instead of their knees. The soldiers arrived as the sun was setting. They marched in perfect formation, weapons ready, faces hidden behind masks. Their commander raised his hand and they stopped. He had expected panic. He had expected screaming and running and fear. He had not expected this. A wall of starving refugees standing arm in arm, watching him with calm and terrible eyes. And behind them, humans in medical uniforms, still treating patients, still working as if an army had not just arrived to kill them. "Move aside," the commander ordered. "We have no quarrel with we are here for the humans." No one moved. "Move aside or we will open fire." Elder stepped forward. His voice was weak from hunger, but it carried across the silence. "We will not move. These humans came to save us when no one else would. They gave us food when we were starving. They healed our sick. They held our dying. They are better than you, and if you want to kill them, you will have to kill us first." The commander hesitated. His orders were clear, but his cameras were recording too. He could see the drones floating overhead, broadcasting everything to the galaxy. He could imagine billions of beings watching, waiting to see what he would do. "This is your last warning," he said, but there was something uncertain in his voice now. From the horizon's light, Captain Park spoke directly to the Galactic Assembly. His voice was broadcast on every channel, reaching every corner of civilized space. "You are watching the system," he said. "You voted to do nothing when they began their blockade. You sent observers instead of help. You chose caution over courage. Now look at what your caution has created. Starving refugees are standing between armed soldiers and unarmed doctors. They are choosing to die rather than let mercy be destroyed." He paused. "This is what happens when good people do nothing. This is the cost of your caution. Watch, remember, and decide what kind of galaxy you want to live in." On the ground, the standoff continued. The soldiers did not fire. They did not move. And the humans kept working, treating patients, saving lives, acting as if death itself was not standing 50 meters away. Then's voice broke through on the bridge. "Captain, new contacts entering the system." Park looked at the sensor display. Ships were appearing at the edge of the system. 1, 2, 5, 10, 20, 50. They were not ships. Flags appeared on the display as the computer identified them. Species that had voted for caution. Species that had chosen to send observers instead of help. They had changed their minds. A transmission came through from the lead ship. The voice belonged to an admiral. "Commander, this is the combined fleet of the Galactic Assembly. We have witnessed your actions. We have seen enough. You will withdraw your forces from the system immediately. If you do not comply, we will remove them for you." On the surface, the soldiers lowered their weapons. They looked at each other, uncertain, waiting for orders that did not come. Commander stood on his ship, watching the fleet that had appeared around him. 50 ships had become 100. More were arriving every minute. The galaxy had finally chosen a side. It was not his. "Withdraw," he ordered. His voice was hollow. "All forces withdraw." On the ground, they began to weep. They held each other and cried and laughed, and did not understand how they were still alive. Nurse felt small arms wrap around her legs. She looked down to see, tears streaming down her face, holding on as if she would never let go. "You stayed," whispered. "You stayed." Knelt down and held her tight. "I told you I would, I promised." Above them, the stars were filling with ships. The galaxy had finally answered the call. It had taken too long, but it had come. A cry for help went out. Humanity responded. Part 5: The Response. 1 month had passed since from the system. The scars of the blockade would take years to heal, but the healing had begun. Relief ships from a dozen species now orbited Prime. Food flowed freely for the first time in months. Hospitals were being built. Engineers were repairing the broken infrastructure. Doctors from across the galaxy had come to treat the sick and the wounded. Dr. Sung-ho walked through the central district of the capital, the same streets where he had once treated patients in a makeshift hospital while waiting for death to arrive. The streets were different now. There was color again. There was sound. There was life. A child ran past him chasing a ball. She was laughing, stopped to watch her, and he felt something release in his chest, a tension he had been carrying for weeks without knowing it. They had done it. Against all odds, against all reason, they had done it. Elder found him standing there, watching the children play. The old scholar looked better than he had a month ago. He was still thin, still marked by the suffering he had endured, but there was light in his eyes again. Doctor said, "I have been looking for you. The assembly has called a special session. They have asked me to speak." To speak about what? About what happened here, about what humans did for us, about what it means. Paused. "I would like you to be there when I speak." Shook his head. "This is your moment, Elder. Your people survived. You should speak for them." "We survived because you came. I cannot speak about what happened without speaking about you." So agreed to go. He put on his cleanest uniform and traveled to the assembly hall, where representatives from 100 species had gathered to hear a speech from a scholar whose world had almost died. Captain Park 1 was there too, standing at the back of the hall with Lieutenant and Nurse O. They had not been invited officially. They were not dignitaries or politicians. They were just crew members from a small humanitarian ship that had done something extraordinary. But Elder had asked them to come, and they had come. The assembly hall was vast and ancient, built thousands of years ago when the galaxy first learned to cooperate instead of conquer. Its walls were covered with the symbols of every member species. Its ceiling was made of transparent crystal, showing the stars above. Walked to the center of the hall. He was small and old and still recovering from months of starvation. But when he spoke, his voice carried to every corner of the room. "I come before you today to speak about what happened on my world," he said. "You all know the facts. The blockaded our planet. They used starvation as a weapon. They killed millions of my people. And you, the Galactic Assembly, debated for weeks while we died." There was uncomfortable movement in the audience. Many species looked away. "I do not blame you," continued. "I understand your calculations. They are powerful. Intervention was risky. You had to think about your own people, your own safety. I understand. But I want you to understand something too." He paused. His eyes found the humans standing at the back of the hall. "While you calculated, humans acted. One small ship, 53 crew members, no weapons, no backup, no guarantee of survival. They heard our cry for help and they came." The hall was completely silent now. I asked them why. I asked them what they hoped to gain. I asked them why they would risk everything for strangers they had never met. Do you know what they told me? His voice grew stronger. "They told me that someone asked for help. That was enough. That was all the reason they needed." He let those words hang in the air. They believe that compassion is weakness. They believe that only the strong deserve to survive. They built an empire on this philosophy, and they were defeated, not by weapons, not by fleets, not by force of arms. They were defeated by doctors with medical kits, by nurses holding the hands of dying children, by a captain who refused to look away. Turned slowly, looking at each section of the assembly in turn. "I have studied many civilizations. I have read the histories of 1,000 species, and I have learned something important. Empires built on cruelty do not last. They consume themselves from within. But civilizations built on compassion, on the simple idea that we should help each other, those civilizations endure." He took a breath. "The humans taught us something. They taught us that the measure of a civilization is not its power. It is not the size of its fleet or the strength of its weapons. The measure of a civilization is how it treats those who cannot help themselves. The measure of a civilization is whether it answers when someone cries for help." He walked toward the human crew, his eyes fixed on Captain Park. You sent observers while we died. They sent doctors. You debated while we starved. They brought food. You calculated the risks. They calculated nothing. They simply came. Stopped in front of Park. The two men looked at each other for a long moment. On behalf of my people, said, I thank you. We will never forget what you did. As long as they exist, we will remember the humans who heard our cry and ran toward the sound. The assembly hall erupted in applause. It started slowly, then grew until it shook the walls. Representatives who had voted for caution were now standing, clapping, weeping. They had seen their own failure reflected in words, and they were determined to do better. After the speech, Nurse walked alone through the assembly gardens. She needed quiet after the noise of the hall. She needed time to think. A small figure appeared beside her, had traveled to the assembly with the delegation. She had refused to be separated from and had allowed her to come. Are you sad? Asked. Smiled, no, I am just thinking. About what? About what happens next. The speech is over. The blockade is broken. Soon we will go home, back to Earth, back to our normal lives. Was quiet for a moment. Then she said something in her careful, practiced galactic common. You taught me a word. Before you go, I want to say it to you. What word? Took a deep breath. She had been practicing for days, making sure she got it right. Thank you, she said in Korean. The pronunciation was not perfect, but it was close enough. Felt tears spring to her eyes. She knelt down and pulled the child into a hug. Will you come back? Asked. You promised, will you come back? Yes, said. Whenever you call, I will always come back. The Horizon's light departed from Prime 3 days later. The crew had received no medals from Earth's government. Officially, they had never been ordered to act. Officially, they had simply been a humanitarian ship that happened to be in the area. Unofficially, they had changed everything. As the ship broke orbit, Captain Park stood on the bridge and looked back at the planet they were leaving behind. It was green and blue and brown, beautiful and alive. A world that had been meant to die. Lieutenant, he said, send a message to Earth. Tell them we are coming home. Yes, Captain, what else should I say? Park thought for a moment. Tell them that the mission was successful. Tell them that 2 billion people are alive today because someone answered when they called for help. He paused. And tell them that if anyone else calls, anyone, anywhere, no matter how far, we will answer again. Because that is what humans do. That is who we are. The Horizon's light turned toward home and jumped into hyperspace. Behind them, on a healing world, a child named looked up at the stars. She could not see the ship anymore, but she knew they were out there. She knew they would come back if she ever needed them. And across the galaxy, other species were learning what they had learned. Humans were young. Humans were emotional. Humans were unpredictable. But when someone cried for help, humans answered. They always would.